Okay. So this is not going to be particularly smick, because it's done on the fly and I'm tired and there's lots of work to do. So if you have been in Australia, you know that Katherine Deves has been in the news constantly. She's a new Liberal candidate pick for Warringah, a suburb here in Sydney. And there's been constant harassment on the internet, on the media. And one of the narratives have been about deleted tweets. And the narrative that's been told us is that these tweets hold so many transphobic and extreme views, and that's why it was deleted. It's not really true. If you become a candidate for the Liberal Party, and I imagine for any other party, you have to delete your social media accounts and all the rest of it because you're now a politician as opposed to a normal human being. So they said 6,000 Katherine Deves deleted tweets fractured the Liberal Party. Not really, let's have a look. The New Daily, I don't know who these guys are, can reveal thousands of Miss Deves' deleted tweets were published online in early April by a Berlin programmer using public accessible software. What software is that? They're saying they program scraped an online archive, the Wayback Machine, for users' deleted posts, in this case those of Mrs. Deves. So what they're saying is there were 6,000 tweets already in an archive, a Wayback Machine, and this programmer came along and he scraped it and put it into one file. Did he really? Because I remember a few weeks back, and it's still true because it hasn't changed, and I'll tell you why shortly, that when I looked on the Wayback Machine for all the tweets of Katherine Deves, and that's how you find it, just put her account name there, there was only 5 times between April 3, 2021 and April 15, 2022 that someone went and manually saved her stuff. That's it, 5 times, not 6,000 times, 5 times. If you have a look at all these tweets, 6,000, someone would have to have been collecting them every single day. And what was interesting is I spoke to Katherine and found out that actually in her account, because it's deactivated, so she can still see everything if she wants to go in, there's only about 3,500 tweets. And the reason being is because if there's a misspelling or grammar or anything, she would have deleted them straight away. She'd type it, put it up, go, oh no, bugger, delete it straight away. So you've actually got not the collection of 3,500 stuff that she put up there, but those quick on-the-fly deletions that no one could collect unless they were sitting watching that account for any time that possibly could happen. It's just being picked up automatically. So and it's all here. Now, so that tells me one thing only, given my background in training test, hacking, all that kind of stuff, is that that's not done manually at all. That's done by a bot. You've got a bot that's triggered every time Katherine tweets something, so they catch it straight away. That's the only way to catch that. It's not someone sitting there waiting for them to archive. And secondly, as I said, this stuff wasn't here on the Wayback Machine. Whoever collected this, which is this guy here, Travis Brown, he didn't collect this off the Wayback Machine at all. He collected this before. And how do I know? Because I went and had a look behind the scenes and found out that there was one file only that had stores of all these tweets that was uploaded only yesterday. So this Travis Brown didn't take a piece of software and trawled on the Wayback Machine to get those tweets. He had them already. And he did have them because here you can see from the account that he's had them in his file for more than a day. He's had them there for a number of days. So it looks like he's given this account, these files, to be uploaded to the Wayback Machine yesterday. And the person who did that was this guy here, Corinne Tubaru, Who is this guy? Corentin Baru is a software engineer for the Wayback Machine. So I'm not quite sure what the processes are for uploading one large file. He's either a mate of this guy and says, hey, can you put this up for us? Or it's one of the processes, but it doesn't seem to be the case because it's done underneath his name. So that's interesting. So that's number one. Number two, who is this Travis Brown? So if we look at Travis Brown, the guy who made this big file, does he have the skills to make a bot? Oh my goodness, yes he does. Machine learning, infrastructure at Stripe, open source at Twitter, open source at Twitter. So he knows Twitter quite well. Let's have a look at this link. Well, yes I did. Goodbye Twitter. He used to work at Twitter. How isn't that interesting? So he knows that infrastructure, I'm guessing, pretty well. He knows it inside out how things are. And he continually works now. If we go back to his account, he actually still works on the open source project at Twitter. So he still has a good, strong knowledge of the architecture of the system, how the APIs work, that's application programming interface. It's a means, a kind of a gateway, as it were, to get data. You use that to extract data. So he's got skills in that space, he's got skills in making bots. Interesting, isn't it? Who is he as a person? So a message from Berlin this morning. Trans youth, there's love here for you. I get a bit suspicious when people say trans youth or trans children. Why? Because usually there's no such thing. There's no such thing as trans children. They're LGBT kids. They're autistic kids. The practice nowadays is to call these kids trans, and it's dangerous. Because once you call them trans and convince young children that they are not LGB, because who wants to be LGB? You're going to get bullied and bashed, etc. All your studies show that kids before they become trans get bullied for being LGB. It's much more exciting and far more validation if you become trans. You're in the wrong body. That's your problem. You're in the wrong body. So they give them things like castration drugs, endometriosis drugs, what they call puberty blockers, and they are harmful. They are bad. They do damage. And if it goes further along, cross-sex hormones, which sterilize young LGBT kids and autistic kids, etc., this is not a good thing. So it's not hate to speak against the harm done to people of my community, the LGBT community. I am gay. So who is he? Why does he do this? Don Stewart. Who's Don Stewart? An Australian software engineer working at MetaDev Infra. He's praising Travis for what he's done, saying there's so much worse stuff. Please go and look at this archive. Actually, you're going to see that there's no worse stuff there at all. And the reason why he's done it is because he's always happy to learn that he may have helped derail a Turk's political career. And that's very much your typical trans rights extremist. Their job is for women who speak up against the damages done by the transgender ideology of putting men into women's prisons, into women's safe places, into women's rape crisis centres, the fact that 75% of the new transgender women are AGPs, in other words, heterosexual men who get off and on appearing to be female, that kind of thing. When we speak up for our rights, what happens is we get threatened, and Katherine's been threatened with death threats. She's had to have 2 security people at her place, have had to send the kids away. This is typical. It's all over the world. This is trans activist movement is a very violent movement. It aims at suppressing people, suppressing freedom of speech, suppressing debate. It is evil. And people who do this kind of thing are arseholes. And this guy, Travis Brown, you're an arsehole. We see you. I don't know if this is particularly legal that you're allowed to use an automated bot. I don't know if you're using your experiences in Twitter now and in the past in this kind of way. It seems pretty damn evil to me. But this is who he is.